Okay, quickly. I already talked about what we do with the audit. Financial report, we had some trouble this time getting the financial report done, and I'll go into that just for a minute. First of all, our checking balance ending April 30th is $3,105.11 for the checking account. We have a number of checks totaling $22,045.39. I deposited and moved $25,000 for the money market to the checking, and the transaction funding subtracting the $22,045.39 for checks, we have a current checking balance $6,059.72. On money market, as of April 1st, was $639,562.56. Deposits, prior transfers, last month interest. We come down to a total current money market account $613,994.99. Adding the checking account in, we have a total funds balance $620,054.71. Any questions? I didn't have a chance. The point is this. I included also a copy of our pay policy. We had, we redid the financial statement 3 times or 4 times. Checks, invoices are coming in after the cutoff date. We even got one, Sunday morning, I can't remember. The point is, the board approved that, let me find it here. All invoices must be received by 5 p.m. the last Thursday before the monthly board meeting. If not, the board reserves the right to pay at the next monthly board meeting. I think the last invoice came in from Dan Moore, and I said, I think we'll try to get it done. And Tom said, we already changed it several times, we'll change it one more time. And so we did get his his invoice in, and he will receive a check. So I'm going to ask the secretary to send out our pay policy to all of our vendors again. You can email it to them. Okay. It's not a rush or anything, but for the next meeting. Okay. I mean, the next couple of weeks, can you send it out again? Sure. And we're not going to do anything after Thursday unless there's a dire emergency of some sort. We're going to have to cut off at 5 p.m. the last Thursday before the monthly board meeting. Another change, because without a secretary for a number of months, our electric bills got lost, and the dam lights were shut off, and we had to scramble to take care of that. And I changed it to invoices, and it was a slight. Or Shirley thought, our secretary thought Tom and I were getting copies, and we were not. I did too, so I called Clay today, and only the secretary will receive. They do not send out copies, so she now knows that Tom and I must get a copy of that. I went ahead and paid the bill of $44. Clay electric for us because we were a little delinquent. The bill, I think, evidently was emailed on May 20th. On May 25th, they expected payment. So I sent out I paid it this morning by the invoice by using our checking account. So I'm going to make a motion that the treasurer be allowed to, because of the short hair time period. And let me back up for one other point. In the past, to avoid all this, we were paying $200 in advance just to make sure we weren't late. And that causes problems with the books a couple of times because of the cutoff for the audit and everything else. So the treasurer, I'm going to make a motion the treasurer be allowed to pay by the e-invoice when we receive it. It generally averages about $50, depending on the number of days in a month. And so I'll make a motion the treasurer be allowed to do that. It will appear on the financial report. I also included a copy of of the approved, receipt off the internet.
Seconded.
I have a question.
Yes.
Discussion. We can't just put that on auto pay and then it's no longer a hassle for
Well, we could do auto pay. I don't like auto pay from the standpoint of, I want to make sure we know what's going on. And we've had situations where there's been a gap in communication. And now, since Shirley and I both understand, I thought that the secondary emails we had with Clay Electric, we were going to get copies. I confirmed this morning, no, that's not true. So the only, and also the only email address we have that is constant is district secretary. So if the secretary changes, we're not, in the old days, we had to go down, we had to change the email address, Mary Jo, blah, 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 so we stopped that. So it's up to the board, but I would prefer, let's try paying it monthly this way. If we feel comfortable, and then we talk more about it.
Well, alternatively, couldn't we just pay a generalized amount a year in advance and let them credit?
We can do that. The problem is we run into having expenses before September 30th should be in for the audit, and we had to go back and adjust that to
simplify your budget.
right. So it's a minor thing, but right now I'm suggesting that we just e-invoice it and e-pay it and do it. If it moves smoothly, then I'll make a recommendation, we go auto pay and just forget it. I don't like, I've lost things in auto pay a couple times on my own, so anyway, what's the board, yes?
Yeah, so I'm also kind of leaning toward auto pay. What's on a bill where we didn't get cut off and have to restore service, what's the highest bill we pay a month? We talking hundreds of dollars?
No, the highest, well, like I said, it depends on the number of days in the month, and this month, last month was $44.
Yeah, so if we're worried about $50 disappearing from the
All right, then
account.
I'll go along with the suggestion we go auto pay. I'll take care of that, take care of that tomorrow.
Okay, a motion to do that? Tom, you make that motion?
Well, I thought you made the motion.
You
I
did.
made the
Auto
motion.
pay, not the auto pay.
Not the auto pay.
He's
You made the
withdrawing his
motion.
motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we auto pay the electric bill.
Second.
Seconds. All right. Matt seconded it. Shirley, you got it? All right, Tom, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Glad that one's over.
Any opposed? Okay, pass unanimously.
All right, budget update. We're not gonna talk about the budget tonight, but the budget, the draft budget must be approved at the June meeting. You've all got a complete copy of the budget with detailed notes, the first time in history, by line. If you lost your copy, there's a copy on the website. Before the next meeting, I'll make some comments in 4 categories, and then the board can review that, and hopefully we can come up with the final, but not the final, a draft budget that must be posted on the website. In July, we must approve the final budget with a resolution, and that copy of that goes to the county, and then I think no one else gets a copy. So, with no discussion about the budget tonight, unless someone has a question. Otherwise, I'm moving on.
Well, do we, just procedurally, we've only got June, and then July is, if you want to finish formalizing things, you got July, but then you got to approve it in July, right? We have
The
to
final
vote,
budget has to be approved in July.
right? Then, should we at least mention anything that somebody may think is missing?
Yeah, I said you get any questions, I'll answer tonight.
Or should we, if anybody's got any questions after having looked at it about amounts or even allocation? Yeah, and I'm asking that sort of because I've already got several questions up here that are gonna come up that relate directly directly to the dam engineering group and also to the budget. So I'm not sure we shouldn't at least go ahead and have a little bit of a dialogue.
Okay, if the board, okay, again, you got a copy with long detail, line by item. If you have additional questions, I'll get into it. There are about 3 or 4 areas we need to hammer in June to finalize.
Yeah.
One thing we'll have to do is to do a lot of some assumptions on next year in reference to engineering costs, et cetera. That's a big assumption.
Yes.
That's all it can be is an assumption.
Yes.
There are a couple other things that we can hammer out in June, in reference, to other areas. But what questions, any immediate questions from the board right now on the budget?
I have.
Okay.
You pointed out one of them, but you're right, we don't have an idea of what the engineering fees will be. We haven't selected an engineer yet. We'll talk about that later tonight. But some way we need to put some money in for engineers. You've got it in, I think, is that the one that's listed here, $150,000? Is that it, or is it, that's tree removal, I'm sorry.
Mine theory.
Infrastructure improvements is one, here's the engineering services on CIP is $200,000.
Yeah, well, okay, so I put down 150,000, for, engineering. Pull it out of the air. It's a very good guess at this moment. Actually, so the board will have to kick that around. I already made my suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good, I don't know what it's gonna be.
No, I don't either.
And, you don't either.
No,
We'll just have to make a world famous educated guess next month.
yeah, okay, but
But tonight, we may come up, in discussing the engineer, we may have a
it's
slightly better
I'm
idea.
I'm screwing you up because engineering fees is listed over here in 2 different places. One is 5312, the 100,000, and then the other one was CIP at 200,000. So total is 300.
That's right.
And then we've got some other miscellaneous things in there that sort of deal with this whole engineering approach too. And
That's correct.
that is trees on dams. That's listed in here. And there's some dredging, probably engineering work is the way.
I suggested maybe
Hazelwood Hole.
Hazelwood Hole
Yeah.
this year,
Yeah,
and also the trees. The trees run about 150,000 for Lake Ryan
Yeah.
and Lake Asbury.
yeah.
But that's a board decision.
Yeah.
I'm just making suggestions to get things going.
And am I right to assume that we can put those in as sort of a placeholder, but you still have to approve them on an individual basis as they come up? For instance, you got, say, $100,000 for trees on the north dam. You still have to, even though you approved the budget, you still got to come back individually and approve that project as approved.
No, once the budget is approved, the project is approved.
Oh, okay. And
Anything that we approve in the budget, the line item is approved. It can be changed, it can always be changed, but the initial amount that we approve,
But that's not the go-ahead to do it, is it? Or is it? That's what
the
I'm asking.
project, okay, the project is approved.
Okay.
We have to go out to bid, the bids may come in 175,000, may come in 100,000.
Okay, then I've got more questions than I thought I had.
Okay, all right. So that's, yeah, there are a lot of questions here.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, when you look,
procedurally, I didn't understand it that way. And I asked that question at a previous meeting and thought I got what I was expecting to get repeated tonight. And you said something different tonight than what was said at the last meeting, as best I can remember. Because I asked that question at one of the previous meetings, because we started out with Hazelwood Hole at $450,000 on the preliminary budget. Now we got it down to like $40,000, but it's only
no, it's still for 450,000.
No.
I haven't changed the budget at all.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
This is the original.
I don't.
It's there.
Where's
It's
the
I've
that
not changed
450 right
anything,
there.
whatever the figure is.
450?
Like, yeah, I have not changed that.
Well, here's the revised one, and it's
There's no revised.
Carl, it's got Hazelwood Home, $40,000 right there, 5630.
This is the last one.
No, it's not. This is the last one. What do you got, Matt?
No, it's
I've
not.
got a 450, but mine's from the March 7, so from the March meeting.
Yeah.
The 450 is still the figure we need to play with.
No, it's not. There's another one that you posted, Carl, that I sent an email to you, and I can go back and look at my emails right there, and I can tell you that there's a difference. And,
Then she posted the wrong one, you see. The one I gave you with all the notes, that is the last budget,
and that
pre-draft note.
that is this one right here.
And,
Yeah, because the first one didn't have notes. This one had the notes. And a matter of fact, if I look at Hazelwood Hole on here, is a consideration requested by the treasurer for board discussion for design and permitting, not for major rehab.
that's right.
Okay, all right,
You're correct. You are correct.
okay.
Okay, you are correct.
All right.
I got too many things in my
But
mind.
that still doesn't change my point. My point is if we take that example, if we said, yes, we're gonna do $40,000 for design and discussion for design and permitting, and we approve our budget with that as a line item, then does that give us the go-ahead to go find a design engineer and stuff like that?
If the board approves it, yeah.
If the board approves the budget, or if the board approves
You
that?
still have to
specific
approve the
line?
budget with, as a line item, but you still have to approve the project.
Again.
So it's basically a go-ahead to go out and get
That is
bids,
correct.
to get bids.
Okay.
And the other item, the big item, when you look at the top here, the money, the fund balance carried forward.
Right.
That's a big guess, based on what we're gonna do this year, we subtract that out. Okay,
Right.
okay,
Understand.
all right.
Now, having said all that, I think we should have, this is out of the normal order of business, but, Mark Wantage is in this meeting, and he's the chairman of the Lake Lot Owners. And he has been in some meetings, and there are some meetings scheduled that I think are important for people to know about, right now, because we're talking about, this is a budget-related issue, potentially, in my opinion. So unless somebody objects to the procedure on that, I think it ties right in with what we're talking about here. So I would like for him to go ahead and give us an update on that. Is that all right? Any objections? No, okay.
No objections, but I'll make a comment with,
No, I'm not through with the,
Yeah.
this is gonna tie right into the Hazelwood Hole that we're talking about, and other things too, so.
Oh, it's pretty brief. Last Wednesday, we had an update meeting for the community, and here, just several people showed up. Not as big as the attendance we normally have, but we just had a representation. I had been working with the county, trying to set up a meeting with the responsible parties on the county side relevant to all our water issues, so all the stormwater issues. And I was able to finally come to terms with an agreement with everybody on the county side that we're going to go ahead and hold a meeting this Wednesday at 12:30. And it's going to be about an hour long. Start the initial meeting. I created an agenda that they agreed to, and they're going to have all their subject matter experts on their side at the table, and we're going to discuss the stormwater situation. We're looking at root causes. We're looking at what is going on, what are the problems, where's it coming from, and what's the solution. And then the responsibility will be delegated from that point out. We're bringing data, our water study that's being conducted. We're bringing all our regular evidence that we have of the problems going on. And they're going to be talking about there's a 3-month study and then a 9-month study that's ongoing right now. And the end of the meeting is that we're going to create both an action item and an agenda and an agreement to have a follow-up meeting. So this is not one and done. This is a process that we're going to be engaged in. The consensus of the group that met last Wednesday was that we don't want to pour money into fixing algae problems, to dredging, to spending money on dealing with the stormwater issue until we find out and remediate the source of the problem. Otherwise, we're putting money that's just going over the dam in Black Creek. So that's where our focus is. And our focus is applying pressure on the county to be able to come up with actionable items that they take care of, that they agree to, and that they actually execute. And it's a growth process. Trust will grow with time and actions, and that's where we are right now. If anybody has any questions.
Are you said the community or committee, who is that a?
Well,
It's not like that.
it's not Lola, it's not Lansville. It's just a group of the concerned people that have gotten together several times over the last couple of years. And this is sort of the outgrowth. It's not been fast, but hopefully we're moving forward.
What is the date again?
It is May the 4th, Wednesday at 12:30.
First of all, I agree with you. Putting it on a piece of paper saying that the design study could be 40,000, that's A. Part B is getting at the agreement with the county of solving where everything comes from and how we're gonna handle it.
Yes.
I totally agree. But I put this on the budget to force a conversation.
And that's good. Again, I don't necessarily speak for everybody, but I'm kind of taking the field. We don't feel, and again, individuals may vary, but we don't feel that Lansville or Lola at this point in time should be dumping a lot of money into dredging and water treatment. Now, that may change in a week, that may change in a month, but right now, we don't want to eliminate something that they can suddenly say, well, it's not a problem, we'll push that down on the priority list. Or we don't want to be spending money in that we really don't have.
See, I'm forcing a plan to begin a conversation. We've not had a conversation. We lost track of the county. We have no, and I totally agree with you, part B, we don't know the source. We know what the source is, but how are we gonna stop it, and how are we gonna maintain it, and how, et cetera.
The mantra that I've been using with them is that all illicit water flow outside the loop, the road loop around the lakes is eliminated. So that's sort of where we're starting at. So we get there, great. If we get part of it, at least we'll make some headway.
Well, I applaud you and whoever the other people are in the community with the efforts there. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you just dredge and don't fix the problem, then you haven't done a whole lot. Done nothing on a permanent basis. Now, Mark McMillan, when he was the chairman and on the board for a while, there were several projects that he showed me when I first got on the board that had been done by the county. So that's good, but there were still some that had not been done, and I don't know exactly what the right procedural approach is from our standpoint, this board standpoint, about dealing with those situations. I mean, talk to the county commissioner and those kind of people, but other than that, I don't know exactly what we can do.
It's just a matter of, we put our expectations on the table and we listen to their response and see what type of action we can do. Something that really has helped us get this far is people showing up at the commission meeting, people showing up at the planning meeting. Because without that, I don't think they would have moved me up on their schedule.
Yeah.
Because that is a critical piece.
Well, and so I guess the comment would be that whatever you see as our involvement, certainly just, I mean, we got kind of enough on our plate to deal with the dams, because that's the priority. Because we can talk about that later, but everybody clearly should know and understand that that's the priority. But this board needs to focus on, and we've got no clue yet about how much money that's going to be. So I say no clue. We've got a clue. I'm saying it's nothing that you confirm yet. So before we start taking on other projects that aren't directly dam safety related and high hazard dam, meaning subject to loss of life, then that's where this board's got to focus on a short-term basis. So thanks.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Okay. Sometime last week, I sent Mark a whole group of pictures of our finger. my finger is the Wesley Road finger.
Yeah,
And after the county repaired the dip in the road, it totally filled in that finger. But on top of which, we now have wall-to-wall algae, which is proceeding out to the mouth of Wesley Road finger. So I don't like the idea that we're not gonna do anything with it because it's just taking over. It's wall-to-wall, which you know, because you saw the pictures. I'll be glad to send the pictures around. I did not print them, but anybody can take a look if you'd like. So where's that going if you're not planning to do anything?
Well, we're not doing that directly. We're not looking at, okay, spray this and get rid of it now. We're looking at coming up with a plan to remove illicit water from our lakes, which will reduce the nutrient level that's coming into the lakes, which will reduce the algae level. Now, if we need to treat after that, then I think that's something that's up for consideration and debate. But at this point in time, my focus is to get the county to look at the source of the problem and the remediation of the problem, and not just the effects of the problem. And so it's not that it's not we're not going to do this. It's going to. We're hitting the hard question first. How are we going to fix this? And how are you going to fix this to the county? And that's the big issue.
I'm not pleased that my finger went from not usable, so we sold the boat. We expect to wait a while for another one. And now we can't even look at pretty water.
Well, there's a positive thing there. Well, first, I asked for videos and pictures where you have before or after the nice realtor shot that you had before you bought the property, and then the after of what you have, the nice lawn that's out there where your boat used to be. Those type of pictures or water that's coming in and causing damage. And I have received a bunch of those. I like a lot more. But in essence, that shows what's happening to the lake, is that we're losing the lake. We're being a dumping ground. And that needs to stop, because the amount of chemicals, the nitrate, nitrogens, and the other things that are coming into the lake is only going to increase. So the cost of taking care of that problem to us is going to increase if we're just doing a topical treatment. So we need to, my focus is that I'm looking at the engineering. Let's get that water that's coming in here going someplace else. And the water that does come in here, how can we manage that better so we're not losing our inlets? And so that we deal with the quality and the quantity of stuff that's coming in. Now, if the community decides that we need to take action now, I mean, that's a community decision. If there's money there and everybody's in agreement to do that, then that's a community decision. I would caution against that, because the algae is not the algae being reported is not toxic, not harmful. So it's an irritant, it's unattractive. I just don't like spending money that's not going to solve the problem. But in terms of ignoring it, the problem, no, that's all part of it. One of the things the county has brought up to me is they're looking at Hazelwood Hole. What that means, I don't know. But the fact that they're bringing it up into discussion without prompting means that they're hearing our conversations.
So I can maybe add something to that I think ties in with this, and I don't know specifics, but Black and Veatch, Walt Regner, who used to live here on the lake, they have been having, that company has been having discussions with the county on water flows and all of that sort of thing. So has another engineering company that he's familiar with and knows the people, and they both are submitting some kind of bid to the county on doing something with potentially Lake Asbury, Hazelwood Hole, that sort of thing. So I don't know, that's just from a verbal conversation with he and I. And he said that that the other company he's familiar with and actually knows, and that he's already had conversation with them, that one or the other of them is going to get this project for the county, And he said, told the guy, if you get it, you got to take care of Lake Ashby. So he's supporting us whether he gets this job or not. So I don't know exactly, see, that's just outside the room here talk. So is that really accurate? I think it is, because I trust Walt.
Well, that's what we're going to be asking is,
Yeah, that's-
everything that you're going,
Right.
what is the county doing now? What are the plans for the county? Do they know where all the drain pipes are?
Yeah.
But I want to add this, that two of the people that are going on Wednesday are Larry and Mike.
Okay.
And so,
Where is it at the?
That was a recommendation of Jason Bennett from the University of Florida, but for the community to try and prove that the runoff and everything is from construction, and it's not from the pesticides itself, the herbicides that you're putting on your yard or anything. The evidence doesn't show that over the years that is increased enough. What's increased is the runoff from Seminole Village and all the other locations.
Yeah, and
And for us to try, he'll keep on giving us results, but for us to try to get the county to fix the problem.
yeah, and along that lines, you guys are to be commended. That report you're looking at there shows water chemistry in the South Lake and the North Lake. And it compares it to years ago. And then, that was done by the University of Florida people, Lake Watch or whatever they call themselves. And then for some reason it stopped being done. Well, why did it stop being done? It wasn't costing us anything. So that was not very small. Now you got a period of time where you got no results, and now you got, I guess, at least as good, because you had the old results that showed 3 times less of those types of things on average, and now it shows 3 times more. So,
well, the reason that got going is that Mike and a few other people committed to doing it.
yeah.
And so they made the contact, they reached out.
Yeah,
they made it happen.
and you guys had talked about it in the Lake Lot Owners meetings, and we had talked about it in here a time or two also. So we got Larry to help out on that, but I agree with the rest of you.
The one extra thing is that I'm going to try to schedule a week from Wednesday as a follow-up, so if I'll put that out on the wire. That will come here into a debrief with what we talked about.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mark. See, this thing is a lot more complicated than it sounds like, but just to Carol made a comment, and she has it on the agenda for our meeting too, but then Dan sent us a questionnaire that said something must be done about water quality. There's a lady named Dawn, V-I-T. Okay, Dawn V.
Yeah.
She was at the last meeting and left a note that said to the district secretary, I live at 190 Wesley, and at the meeting on Monday when the budget was discussed, there was no mention of fixing the problem with the Wesley finger. I wasn't able to stay until the end to bring this up, but this needs to be discussed by the board members and addressed. The finger has gotten progressively worse in the last 2 years I've lived here. There's no drainage, and the water is running over the top of my neighbor's bulkhead. The sediment is almost about to cover my dock, and the entire finger is full. I brought this up several times, and I know the long-standing issues. If we're going to be forking out an extra $200 a month, then I certainly don't want to see this failing infrastructure and want to use my waterfront property like it's waterfront. So there's another one, and then I see like there's one other. No, it's different. Oh, this one is on Hazelwood Hole. It says, my wife told me that Hazelwood Hole, this is Lee Goodnight. It says, can I read it or you want to read it? Okay, it says that his wife told me that Hazelwood Hole was not discussed at the engineering firm presentation. That is true, and it was not written in the request for qualification scope of supply. So there's no dredging that was mentioned in that scope of supply at all. That's on the website also that you can look at. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But you notice $40,000 in the proposed budget for engineering services for Hazelwood. Carl's already mentioned that. That was just kind of a placeholder. Is it fair to assume that the clean out will not commence until 2024? Don't know that. I don't have a date. has the county accepted any responsibility for the mess and offered any assistance with the clean out of the finger? So that's what Mark was talking about. Sounds like you're in full support of that. Okay, so there's these questions that have been answered.
I have learned, that we did, about 2 or 3 years ago, we had someone come and work with the quality of the water. I mean, they took care of things like the hydrilla and the algae. That was, but I can't find out the name of the firm. Maybe Larry knows it, but this was years past. And we didn't have the problem then that we have now with algae.
Okay. All right, I don't know that we will solve that here in this meeting tonight, though.
No, but it's an issue. And it's getting bigger all the time because our finger is now moving out into the regular lake. The problem is moving into the regular lake. It's not just our finger now, it's going out the end of the finger.
With the grass carp won't eat algae. I can tell you that.
So, let me get back to the agenda as to
I'll try to find out.
where we were, because I confused myself a little bit, but don't tell anybody that. Okay.
Actually-
This came up because of the
Right.
financial,
That's
because
correct.
of Hazelwood Hole and these other
One more
questions.
thing, a gentleman, Mr. Guyberg, I believe he's already checking into some companies that, will provide a service to kill the grass, but, you're gonna end up having to pay for it, but he's trying to get, some estimates right now. Last time I talked to him.
Yeah, there was a Chris Herman, he looked at, reached out to a company for Lowell also to get some prices on that. Pass it on.
I'm trying to find out who that was.
Money.
All right, so Larry, we'll, I guess, Janet, we'll pursue that with, because I knew somebody was looking into it, I didn't know who specifically, but obviously, I'm not trying to say we're not gonna spend any money on anything but dams, because we don't even know what we're gonna do yet, but, and we do have, $620,000 in the account right now, but we better be wise as we look forward to these projects. So, okay.
A question, Ms. Secretary, did we approve the financial report?
We have not.
We have not. I make a motion that we approve the treasury report, May 2nd, 2022.
Okay, a motion, any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Next thing is we have current checks. Shirley Phillips, $993.64. Then we had a voided check because we issued a check and we paid it by e-invoice. And then Colin Gonzalez, we have $4,096.75. Leeds Valves and Pump Repair, $5,000. Major Associates, that was an auditor. The audit was $7,500. And I have an indication that they probably will be available to do the audit next year, but the project cost will go up. Well, most districts are looking at an average of $15,000 for their audits. So, but we'll find out more shortly. The preferred government insurance, $1,007. Thomas Hallquist, our accountant, $250. Forest Groundworks, which mows the dams, $2,344. And of course, the Clay Electric invoice, $44 for a total of $22,045.39. So we need approved checks, 3760, 3762, 3763, 3764, 3765, 3766, 3767, and 3768.
All right, motion approved. You second it?
Second.
Okay, so I made a motion, Carol seconded. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Three quick things, we'll talk real fast, that could impact the budget for next year, and I did some research real quick. First of all, the board gave me permission to request the inclusion for the Clean Water Act. The Greg Carlson of Florida DEP came back and said no. I appealed it. Basically, came back, I have emails in the file, it'll be part of the treasury report, that, he reminded me that the types of stormwater projects that were eligible for funding did not include dams and reservoirs. Therefore, we are not eligible to try and be on the inclusion list. So that's done.
So that's the clean water SRF thing?
Right, exactly right. That probably also indicates that the grants portion is also.
I would spin that, instead of saying it was dams and levees, I would spin that and just really focus on the stormwater.
I tried. I was on the phone with him. I sent an email. I even tried non-point pollution, that angle on clean water. He said no. Dams and reservoirs, no. Now, the next thing is,
Before you do that, can I ask a question?
sure,
And it may be my gross ignorance, but what exactly does our charter say about water quality versus dam
it
reservoirs?
says nothing about water. All it says is that we maintain lakes and dams. I have the charter here if you want to read it.
It's on the website.
Yeah,
Your point is,
Point
you
is
need to
that-
focus on the dams.
I know there's a lot of value in having clean, pretty water to look at, but our short-term goal has to be dam maintenance.
Okay, the next thing is, I remember I mentioned to the board that, public facilities report needs to be done next year. Then I started thinking about the budget, because I have a habit of doing that. That's too much to think about sometimes. But, October of 2016, I was not on the board. I was off the board for 6.5 years. Why? Nothing happened, I don't know. The first phase of the Special District Public Facilities Report was supposed to have been completed in 2016. Why, I don't know. The second phase is due October 2023. So I copied section 189.08, which you have in your file. You can read it if your heart's content with everything else. And quickly it says each district has to find, where is it? I have to find out a little more clarification about the Special Public Facilities Act, because I didn't want us to get blindsided by a fee to complete this. I'm still researching it. I'm gonna ask Hans if you will look at it. It's in the packet. If not, I'll send you another copy. Take a look at it's Florida 189.08 and see if you agree with me I could be wrong. But I want to make sure we don't have any hidden costs, but jump up, we got to do a report. Okay, the next thing is, I also was thinking about what happens in Reedy Creek Development Improvement District, which is Disney. There was a discussion whether or not they had recertified or not. I think they actually did. And I went to Jack Gaskins at DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity. He is the administrator for all the Florida districts, almost 1,800 of them. I emailed him this morning. He emailed me back. I said, I'm not sure if we need any problem. Are we going to have to recertify? And he came back and that email is in your file. Basically, he agrees that we do not have to recertify, so there's no cost involved with that might pop up next year. You can read that to your heart's content. I also included, as always, the transaction details, special assessments, which shows the flow of assessment income by month. And unless there's any questions, that's the end of my report.
Any questions? All right, I think we go to staff reports, district accountant, we don't have one, district attorney, you've got board bid procedure. Do you want to comment on that quickly? If it's going to be more than 10 minutes, okay?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that's still a work in progress. That was put on the agenda. I know Carl, the bid policy and procedure that I created in March, Carl wanted to make he has some good suggestions for some edits, and I believe that's still a work in progress.
Well, I'll have it done for you for the next meeting.
Yeah, no problem, but, so,
We take a look at it and get work and make a decision.
right.
Okay. Anything else on it?
No, sir.
Thank you. District Secretary, financial disclosure statements.
Yes, sir. This is the month that each of you will get a form from the state. Has to be completed and sent back to the state by July 1st. I gave everybody a copy of the requirements they gave me. There is a penalty attached if you do not complete the paperwork and get it in on time. And it's per trustee. So if you don't complete your paperwork and get it in on time, they're gonna send you a bill. And it's $25 a day, up to $1,500 for failure to comply timely.
Okay, I've not been on the board that long. I'm assuming this is a normal.
It's an annual thing.
It is. We once had a trustee who didn't do it for 3 years. I don't know what his penalty finally was, but he had to work that out with the state. They're serious about getting this done.
Is this the one?
It's Form 1, the same thing we
It
did.
doesn't say how much is in your checking account, or savings account, and your bank account. It don't ask your net assets or net worth or any of that stuff. It just,
General statement.
general statements.
What's that due date?
July 1st is what she said.
July 1st is when it has to be into the state, and I can't certify the board until everybody's got their paperwork in.
And they would be mailing this again, Lynn, approximately?
They will mail each of you
Right.
the form. It's Form 1,
Form 1
and it's gonna be coming out to you this month.
this month.
So you should have it within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, can you put that on your list for our next meeting in June and say, hey, and then take a
I'll
roll
be
call
happy
as to
to.
did we get it?
Be happy to.
And remind us of that. That'd be good.
So when we mail it, we should just notify.
Please do let me know when you send yours in. That way I can mark you off of my list.
Okay. Now, I guess we're down to the chairman. RFQ, which is request for qualifications, update and next steps. Find my notes here. All right. This is just my preparation to set the stage for what we're talking about. We had a presentation on April the 26th from Hanson. They were the only ones that submitted information in response to that request for qualifications. So that was good news that they submitted, bad news that we don't have more than one. But we voted as a board to go ahead and have them come in and talk with us. They did that on the 26th. They had intended to have 4 people here, and one of the guys was coming from New Jersey or somewhere else and flying in, and his flight got redirected somewhere else and all that sort of thing. And so he didn't show up. What I'll do is I'll make some comments, my comments about this thing, and where we sit, and what I told them at the end of the meeting and the board was that at this meeting we need to determine are we going forward or not. And I said at this meeting, all right, there have been some other things come up that I will mention in just a minute. But my comments on it are, as I like their presentation. You got Hanson, you got a sub to them with Bergman and Kimley Horn, and they're good. They've done this kind of work. Kimley Horn is big in grants and appropriation requests from the Army Corps of Engineers and things like that. They dealt with and still deal with FEMA, state, federal, and they suggested in their presentation that that be done up front, and if it's done up front, then we can include the engineering fees in with the grant money or funding money that we've got. They have lot of people that deal with grant writing, and they said that that is complicated, time consuming. It's not, probably we're doing Janet a big disservice by saying, hey, Janet, do this stuff for us, and you want to volunteer for it and all that. And they're saying this is the complicated stuff, and they have people that do this all the time, and they feel like that they will be very successful in doing this. They know Tracy Wood and Cammie Dewey. This one guy that was supposed to be here from Bergman, Kenneth Avery. He's had conversation with Tracy Wood. And Justin Dewey is here in Jacksonville with Hanson. And he deals on a board. He's a chairman of an engineering board. I don't remember the name of it, Matt, you may, but Cammie Dewey is on that board. And so they've had a lot of engineering dealings together, but they've also are on this one engineering outfit together, so they know each other pretty well. They were rated, this is, I think, big. They were rated #1 by the Jackson Army Corps of Engineers on some criteria. I don't know exactly what it was, but they were the top rated engineering firm. So they're, as far as I'm concerned, our challenge is to know enough about their qualifications and feel good enough about them that we ask them to go forward with a preparation of a contract and give us pricing and give us options on how to set that up. And of course, that would get into, Hans would be involved in legal documents on contracts, and there'll be a lot more discussion, so it's not a done deal. Having said that, there are some questions that I know are going to come up if I don't bring them up. So Carl said at the end of the meeting he had 12 questions and he didn't ask them. That was inherited to me. He knows that. But I swallowed hard, and then I decided what's the right thing to do. Well, I called Brian Wozniak, who's the project manager for this. And I said, I didn't, if you remember, and I'm still want to emphasize this to all of us, this is a two-way street and still will be a two-way street. We only got one engineering outfit to bid to say they're interested in working with us. That they would be interested in going a little further, all right? So this is a two-way street. We needed to get comfortable with them, and they need to get comfortable with us. The next step is if we're comfortable with them, we move ahead with having discussions about and presentation from them about contract and the scope of that and the fees associated and that sort of thing. But knowing that Carl wasn't satisfied, I talked to Brian, and I said, well, look, there's a couple of things that still aren't to all of the board's satisfaction, and there may be others in the board that share Carl's opinions. But I said, first off, you need to give me. I kind of soft pedaled a little bit to try to, I said, hey, can you give me this thing that they presented? There's some copies of it, I think, still back there on the table. Can you give this to me electronically so we can put it on the website? Because this was what they presented from. All right, it's got the task and deliverables. They talked right through that. We gave them questions. They answered all the questions that we had given them, with the exception of the ones that Carl has come up with since then. So I talked with him about that. He's going to do that. Matter of fact, I just got an email right around 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I've been in hot pursuit trying to figure out how we can move this thing forward without making each other mad and that sort of thing.
Brian responded on the insurance question that I had.
He did?
Yes, he did. In fact, the next day I emailed him, and he emailed me right back after he talked to his insurance counselor. His regular umbrella is occurrence, but the professional liability is the claims made. They have presently purchased a 3-year additional reporting period. It may not sound like much to you, but remember our project goes over a long period of time also.
Yeah. So in my conversation with him, I started with asking for this electronically. He sent that to me about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Okay, and then I said, look, there's still a few open questions. They really relate to this Kenneth Avery, who's with Bergman and has the most dam experience out of the whole group. I think he had 46 years of service and that sort of thing. I said, so, and he wasn't here to address the questions. You guys covered for him as best you could, and I think they did a good job of covering for him. Had he not shown the guy's picture, we wouldn't necessarily known that he was even supposed to be here or existed. His name is in the book of presentations. But I said, there's still a few questions that would be good if you can answer them or address them some way. And so the questions were about the fact that they didn't put that much in their proposal about earthen dams. They dealt with concrete structures a lot, and they didn't focus that much on earthen dams, even though there are a few mentions of earthen dams in there. I said, so can you do something to get information from Kenneth Avery about earthen dams, something more specific? And he said that he would be able to do that. And then the other thing was there was a question about PMF versus probable maximum flood versus PMP, probable maximum precipitation. I said, so there was a question there as to what's really used and that sort of thing. And he explained that a little bit, and he's got a response that so in other words, he addressed both of these things in an email to me, along with this copy of this thing. So I should probably, if I can get this to open, I can get it to open. Boy, this thing's hard to read. It says, thank you for having us at your last meeting. It was a good meeting. It was a good meeting, and we're excited about the project opportunity, which is good, because that's saying I didn't irritate him by doing it. Attached is a PDF on the 11 by 17 placemat, which is this document we talked about. We provided at the meeting. I also mentioned we would have Ken Avery, dam safety specialist, answer some questions that he was not able to answer at the meeting. His answers are in italics below. And the first question was about earthen dams. It says earthen dam experience expertise. Although our written proposal included primarily federal concrete dams our team has worked on, we've worked on more earth dams than concrete dams as a team, more earthen dams. All right, the placemat we brought, and I'll send this to you if you want, to all of you. I just got it. I was wrong, it wasn't 3 o'clock, it was 2:59. The placemat we brought to last week's interview included 4 dams with similar characteristics, height, volume, length to the LASMBD dams for earthen dams. Our team has in-house expertise in the areas of H&H, geotechnical and structural engineering. And if you look down here at the bottom of this, I didn't realize this, these are all earthen dams.
Okay.
And it says like Red House Dam, 1,500 foot long, 30 foot high earthen dam with concrete spillway with 770 AF maximum storage, whatever that is. And there's a
Acre
Devil's
feet.
Lake.
8 acre feet.
Okay.
That's the volume.
Then there's a Devil's Lake, 8 mile long dike system with 6 pump stations. Then there's a DeRuyter Dam, 1,600 feet long, 70 foot high, earthen dam with concrete spillway with 16,000 AF maximum storage. And then there's a Clear Lake Dam, 650 foot long, 30 foot high, earthen dam with concrete spillway with 1,100 AF maximum storage. So that's on these, and obviously he's saying there's more than that.
Okay, all right, I accept this.
All right, then, regulatory comments, as this next question was on the PMF versus PMP. Says we can clarify what exactly is required by, it says, can we clarify what exactly is required by St. John River Water Management District? The probable maximum precipitation is the rainfall used to generate the probable maximum flood. So one leads to the other. So although the regulations tab 3.4.1-1 of the St. John Water Management Regulations describe the design storm in terms of PMP hazard class equals C with storage capacity greater than 1,000 acre feet and height greater than 6 feet. The PMP is applied to a watershed model to produce a PMF for dam design analysis.
So he's basically saying they're interchangeable or very similar.
Very similar, even though when you calculate it, it comes out to 38 something inches on PMP and 47 inches on PMF. And I don't profess to understand that.
Interesting, okay.
But he also said to me, and he didn't say it here, he also said that, because I had asked a question for their presentation about the design criteria in St. John Water Management District and all that. Well, they're obviously going to approach the thing from covering the required safety performance issues, but then they're not going to say it's PMF, period, because that is, he says that is extremely, will be, cost-wise will be a lot more. And he says, and that's not necessary, they're not to the point where they could say, that's what you're gonna get, and if you don't like it, tough. He said that St. John Water Management District would probably be somewhat cooperative, and he actually led me to believe more than that, but I'd rather, still open for debate. Worst case, if you look at the regulations, you're building a dam today, that PMF is what you're gonna get. If you're gonna build a new dam today,
No.
that's not what we've got.
No, PMP.
PMP?
PMP is what it's built to.
All right. Ironically, if you look back at the 1978 USACE report, the United States Corps of Engineers report, it mentioned PMF in that, even though we didn't do it. It was a 100-year flood at that time, is what it was built to. So that was his comment about that. And then the only other thing was he said that Tracy Woods and Kenneth Avery was the one that had talked to Tracy Woods, and I said to him to give us her thoughts, expand on that more. What were her thoughts on the project? He says that he's had 2 conversations with Tracy and a few emails with her. She's been particularly positive concerning grant money availability, even though some of the grant mechanics are still being worked on. She specifically mentioned the FEMA HHPD grants, Clay County grants, and the recent federal infrastructure bill grants as possibilities she's aware of. She was also very forthcoming with information on the EAP, which she authorized and approved. That was our EAP. So that was his response. You could go on, or you could say, well, it's just for doing what we need to do. I don't see any reason not to proceed with the next step. They seem cooperative. That if we, in the interim time, want more information, then we can probably ask them and get it. I would prefer that go through me, because I'm the one that's been dealing with this whole RFQ process from the beginning. And I don't think we want to get multiple people involved in dialogues like that. But I would suggest that we continue with the process, keep the process moving forward. If any of our dams fail, then he said there's a very strong possibility that they will not be rebuilt. In addition to that, if that North Dam fails, we could be looking at destruction of property, deaths even, and nothing. Obviously, that wouldn't be good for the community, us, them, Tracy Wood, any people involved in it. So, another concern I've got in delaying the thing is Hanson can get too busy. What I was told, the reason we only got one company interested, there were two reasons given. One was that people are busy in those fields. And two was a lot of companies don't want to deal with a community district like Lansing. Came after so I think that there's some risk there. If we delay the thing, then I think that it's not going to help us any. I don't know what we would do different or find out different than what we already have anyway.
One of the other things I thought was really good, they recognized our financial situation and immediately filled that gap with somebody that was a good grant writer. Not that we don't have a grant writer,
Right,
but
right.
I think they're better than me, let's be real.
Just lay it out there. That's their job.
But I mean, I think that was pretty good on your part to say, okay,
Well-
we looked at you, we wondered about your financial condition, and here's the gap filler.
Yeah, and he mentioned that again on the phone to me. So we did have a casual conversation that spun off into other things other than what the questions were. And he said that they have already started thinking more about the phased approach and taking smaller steps, to and funding the thing along and that sort of thing too. So they. Actually, that's pretty good because they know that their success of getting things moving faster is for them to be successful in funding.
It's like we're all in the same rowboat.
Yeah, so with that, I said, if we need to move on, then we'll determine the permitting criteria. That'll happen fairly quickly. They've got to do some work and groundwork and all that. And, then design and construction and options, because they said they'd give us options on how to do all this stuff, not just present one thing. And then get into cost and timing. So I would make a motion that we proceed and give Hanson, have them propose a contract to us with pricing for continuing this process. Second? Other discussion?
Just remember,
Who is this?
Parent
Larry.
heads.
my question is just, we have to remember that if we don't like the pricing, we can't talk to them again. They're out of the game.
Well, if we don't do something
But
like
we have,
this,
I'm not
we're
saying
not gonna
that.
talk to them anyway.
I understand, I just make that comment.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, so any other conversation, any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of Carl's comment. When you say we can't talk to them again, we can negotiate the rate.
Yeah, what we negotiate, but if we don't like the final, then.
You can
Yeah,
reach- you
then
can-
we go back out
But
to restart the process,
But I
yeah.
agree with the chairman, we need to start.
Well, we don't know, if we don't start, we ain't gonna know,
That's correct.
Yep.
And we're gonna so we need to kick the can on down the road.
I
and just-
He's been off for 25 years or better, so.
Yeah, and I would read this. This was a comment from the audience again, from Mark Wantotz. Mark says a comment. He says, as an engineer with many years' experience selecting engineering firms for large multi-million-dollar projects, the engineering firm that presented at last meeting is highly qualified and has the depth of service we need for our project. I recommend moving forward with engaging the Hanson team. Now that I didn't ask him to do that. That's based on his being here. Tom, you've dealt with a lot of people too, and contracts and that sort of thing from an electrical, general electric standpoint. and all that. Okay, so is there any more discussion?
I don't think it needs any more discussion.
Okay, how about a vote then? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, good. Thank you very much. I feel better now that we're moving. Doesn't mean that we've got an engineering firm hired, but certainly we're a step closer if that turns out to be the case. And for your information, in our request for qualifications, the advisory committee helped organize all of that, was fact finding and, you know, preparation and all that. And, one of the things that has come across very strongly from Hanson's standpoint, is they saw the need to put that funding, grants, assistance and all in their proposal. The advisory group and our RFQ didn't have it, didn't say anything about it. So, that makes me feel even better that, you know, they're looking at the overall scope. They're not just looking at a bunch of engineers with, I don't know how they do it. They don't have drawing boards anymore, so however they do their drawings and all that stuff. But
You got your approval, what more do you want?
I'm done. No, I'm not done. I'm done with that. No, I got our approval. I think that is good for the community. The advisory group, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the valve update. We sent out or tried to get quotes for a 4x15 walkway. Anybody know the status of that? Bowmaster came and looked at it, Haywood. Did he submit anything to anybody? Tim Lee doesn't have anything. I'm sorry, Tim Lee, did anybody get any proposals from both Haywood or anybody else on the 4x15 foot platform to go out to the South Lake kettle?
When I gave Tim another contractor, Mike, provide.
I sent him one from, from the online bidding platform, DemandStar, a firm that I'd worked with before in St. John's Water Management District. They were interested.
Was that the aluminum guy?
Yes.
He called me, Tim had him call me because Tim wasn't available to show him the thing. I talked with him and he asked me, well, what are we gonna secure the thing with? And I said, well, the other guy that quoted is gonna build it out of pressure treated wood. And he said, I don't have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
So he said, I'm not gonna waste 5 hours coming to look at it. And so I'll see you
Okay.
later. So I said, okay.
There you go.
Generally, Hayward Construction is very slow and methodical in getting proposals out, so I'm not seeing anything.
Do I need to get back with the Bowmaster or, I mean, he gave us some verbal.
I don't know, I'm not.
You wasn't there, but Tim and Mike Kelter and myself were there. We sketched on notepads, engineering drawings on notepads, and we talked about.
Very scientific.
And he said, I can do this job, I can do it with 6 people and take about a day. He said, I have leftover, and it's only a 4x15 foot. He's got leftover wood from projects and all that stuff that he can do us a good deal on. And it was guesstimated to be around $3,000 without him doing any calculations. So,
I will give them a call.
you want me to call him?
But they're slow, methodical, so I know it's in
Again,
process.
well, look, here's the deal, is we're in May now, all right? We're right around the corner from hurricane season, and that starts officially the 1st of June. Yeah, and I think somebody said unofficially, it's really the 15th of May, so we need to get that thing done. I mean, it's only been there 35 years, but we still need to get it done, because Tim is concerned about it. He can't access that very easily. So why don't I make a motion that I'll get with Haywood, and if they'll do it for, let's pick a number, $3,500 or less, up to that amount.
Not to exceed.
Yeah, not to exceed. Then we get him to go ahead and do it, provided he meets all the existing criteria, which he's done work for us before, so I assume he knew about insurance and all that stuff too. Provided we get the right doc.
One thing Brian Wozniak said the other night about that was to be sure you had it so it can be locked up and people couldn't get across it.
Yeah,
That was his comment.
Yeah, he was talking about that on the North Lake particularly too, yeah. And that's in there, that was all discussed with Kelter and Rob Bowmaster, myself, and Tim Lee were all there, so.
So this is for, South Lake,
South Lake Kettle,
only,
yeah.
and Lake Ryan, what are we doing?
Lake Ryan we ain't doing anything with it. Tim's comment was the only way you can do anything with that is so far out there, you'd have to have some kind of floating structure. So, but the risk factor is the least on Lake Ryan than it is any others. And on the North Lake, he has some kind of little, I don't know what you call it, but he has some kind of walkway that kettle is close enough to the bank that he can get there. At my age, I don't wanna do it. I've done it, helped him a little bit. I mean, watched him a little bit, but he feels okay with doing that. But he's not comfortable, like if you got storm coming in and wind blowing big time and rain and all that, he's not comfortable with accessing the South Lake for sure. So my motion would be to up to $3,500, approve him doing it, but not to exceed $3,500.
Second.
And if he don't want to do it, then you just have to find somebody else.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Matt
Motion.
already did.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's done. All right. Tim did, his son works with him on his valve company, and he's doing a shutdown, turnaround work down at the Palatka at the paper mill, even though he retired a month ago. And he finishes that on the 5th of May, I think, that's what he said. And, but he did have his son, who's been working with him, do all of the maintenance and checking and all that on the valves. That's what this was. So that continued, and that was the way it was planned to be anyway. Okay, that's all I've got. So now we go to Vice Chairman.
All right, first update was for the inspections. About 4 to 6 weeks ago, Tom Leahy reached out to me and said he'd like to be part of that team. I talked with our attorney, and he basically said that we could approve a special committee that wouldn't discuss anything, would simply the purpose of the committee would be to conduct an inspection of the dams, and for the purposes of me generating a report for the board of the situation of the dams. So before I went forward with him to doing that, I wanted to seek board approval or get your thoughts and see what the thoughts were for that. Any inputs?
Well, obviously, when you go back to that RFQ, on a short-term basis, that they're gonna have some engineers come out and do a lot of inspections on the dams and all that sort of thing. But that's different than what you're talking about, I think. So I say that to suggest that when they start to do their inspections and their geological testing and all that, that some of us somewhere has got to be involved in that. So we don't just send them out.
Yeah.
Just send them out to do whatever they want to, and then we wonder how they came up with what they came up with.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I think that my impression is we haven't had regular routine inspections of our dams, maybe ever, but I'm not gonna say that, but we don't have. Go ahead.
Back when Mike Kelter, yes, but during the COLA, matter of fact, discussion was when we hired them with dam inspections included in scope of work, they said yes, but they never completed a dam inspection. So since, I guess not 3 years, we've not had a true dam inspection.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is that, that should give us good information for discussions with them, because we need the best shot at it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So before I proceed with the motion, right now it's Tom and I. Was anybody else interested in walking the dams and physically inspecting them? Not to discuss any further business. Okay?
Yeah, from a cross-training point of view, it shouldn't only be one guy. Knows what's going on.
Okay? So it'll be the three of us. And my motion is that Mr. Pence, Mr. Leahy, and I form a special committee for the purposes of inspecting the levees on a semi-annual basis.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, Mr. Coker.
Okay.
All right, next, two of the items, the siphon quote and the private property encroachments. Those are updates that I was hoping Tim Lee might be able to provide for us. I will call him after this meeting, sometime between this meeting and the next meeting, get some updates from him on that, in case
He's worked, just for your information, he's working 12 hours on the turnaround.
Yeah.
7 days a week, and so I'd say after the 10th of the month.
The 10th, okay.
I would say. He
Okay.
told me, but I don't know.
Okay.
About a week to go is where he's at.
Yep, okay, that works. So I'll reach out to him at that point and see if he's had any updates on that and bring it back to the board next month. The last update was for EAP. I reached out to Tracy Woods by email and asked her what leeway we had to distribute the EAP as we saw fit. And her feedback is that basically she got with her attorney, and their feedback was that they provided us a list of statutes that they must follow, which is why they provided us a redacted version, and that we should seek legal aid. I reached out to Hans, who was going to have an associate do some research on that.
It's in process.
It's still in process? Okay, so maybe by next month we might have an update on that?
I should be able to get you an answer within a week or two.
Okay.
That I'll send via email. But it was quite a bit of statutes on that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And then you combine that, because the EAP is about 150 pages.
Yep.
So we just want to make sure we're not missing anything, but I
Sure.
should have something for y'all within a week or two.
Okay, perfect. And that's all I've got.
You know, on that EAP though, one of the things that maybe you and I need to talk about it, I guess we already have, it's still got Mark McMillan's name on there. And so we gotta change that. And I think you an email you said that they sent us the copy that we can make changes on. We apparently couldn't find that. So we need to change
Oh,
that.
yes, yeah, yep.
And then put on your schedule somewhere that we need to have not unlike what Hans did with us with the Sunshine Law update, we need to have at least a short review.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to see how much I could disclose.
Yeah.
So
I got you.
we wait till next month, we see how much I can disclose, and then we have a special board meeting. We'll all go through and hit the highlights of what's in there, what needs to be changed, what do we need to know as a board, things of that nature.
Yeah.
I have a question. Since we're coming up to hurricane season, do we have an approved drawdown instructions
For right now, for the South Lake, yes.
just for South Lake?
The South Lake, because we submitted a permit in 2012, that permit had specific.
Like 72 hours and.
Yeah, so the EAP covered all three of our lakes, and it had drawdown procedures for all three lakes. Though the reason I mentioned the South Dam is its drawdown procedure conflicted with the permit one. Mm-hmm. So we need to, in my opinion, default to the permit that we applied for as far as following that protocol.
Can we complete that by next month?
Just
First of all,
the flood control operation of the dams, basically. That aspect of it, sure, I can have that for next
in other
month.
words, we've been waiting too long to make a decision. And also, part B then, the drawdown is we just have a normal storm. For example, I know Tim was talking about, I thought it was a meeting that when the Lake Asbury was down 3 inches, we start opening the valves for a part B drawdown, non-hurricane. We haven't ever discussed that. What we do when the storm's coming in, starts pouring rain, the weather report changes now, the Lake Asbury is rising, and when we start opening the valves, we wait too long.
Yeah, so I'll take what the EEP has right now and distill it down just
Doesn't
to,
address that.
It doesn't address it.
And even the EAP, the procedures that you're talking about were written by Tacoy, and they're not accurate. And you have to watch, like you got to open the North Lake and get some volume there before you even touch the South Lake. And the procedure doesn't.
as a flood control engineer who operates dams, that's not necessarily true. You can operate them simultaneously. You can operate one before the other. It depends on the elevations of the lake dams.
Okay, but when the other thing, when Tacoy was writing that thing, and what you'll see in it is you'll see that it references on the North Lake, the west valve, and nothing on the east valve because the east valve hadn't been repaired in more than 2 years. And it since has been repaired, and it referenced the west valve, and it referenced the siphon system
Yes.
that was installed in a heck of a hurry because of a storm coming.
Yes.
And it's still written that way, and that, as
And
you
that's-
know,
and
the
that's
siphon
some-
system doesn't work.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
that's basically one of the change recommendations that have worked.
The other problem though is, and this was still going on when Takoi ceased to exist with us, and that is the calculations on drawdown were based on wrong information. It was based on pipe diameters, and in some cases wrong diameter pipes, and the valves are smaller diameter than the pipe. So the controlling factor on drawdown is the diameter of the valve. It ain't the pipe. So their whole calculation stuff was just that, stuff. So I don't know, and then there's been changes made since the system was put in with the hard HD pipe. So I don't know that if you say design-wise, you should be able to open everything anytime you want to. I don't know if that's still the case. It might have been at one time. Might not have ever been.
Let me comment. 2000, a long time ago, we opened up all the valves. We couldn't make a decision when and at, et cetera, the whole story. I got a call, Mr. Coker, have you looked at your backyard? At 20 feet of water, all of the area, all the lots that are subject to flood inundation had 20 feet of water because we opened up all the valves at the same time.
I assume you mean laterally 20 feet, not vertically 20 feet.
Right.
Okay.
So, I know from experience, one time it didn't work.
But in Carl's defense, we have a guy on the lake that because of rainwater, his septic system doesn't work right. And so he calls whoever he can get a hold of and says, y'all gotta drop the lake. And that's, we're reacting to, and he used to be on the board, I'm not calling Butch's name, but anyway, we're reacting, we had been in a reacting mode. Tim has kept data on when we get certain rain and how much additional flow do you get in and all this sort of thing. So we've got a better handle on how to address the short-term storms. And at 3 inches right now, we'll put it in writing, but right now at 3 inches rise on the North Lake, then we open the valves, both valves at 25 turns, whatever percentage that is. And that seems to be okay. And so far in a short-term type storm, even a pretty good little storm, not a hurricane, you don't have to fool with South Lake in the short-term storm basis. So that's what we found out. And you'd think that some of this stuff would have been documented better in the past, but it's not.
So are there, from a civil engineering point of view, are there drawdown rates that will affect the integrity of the earthen dam structure?
Well,
And where are they? Is it something?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
I understand from my limited knowledge that you can't just draw down an earthen dam quickly. The water that as the dam dries out or the water comes out of the dam structure.
Yeah,
put the dam at risk.
Yeah, so the risk you're talking about.
Safety zone, can we work within a can the advisory board or somebody tell us that, yeah, you can drain the lake 6 feet, no problem, or whatever the number is?
The issue you're talking about is basically if I've caused this issue before. It doesn't catastrophically fail. What it does is it causes your bank to start eroding. So as you discharge quickly, the water has to be pulled out of the dam, that groundwater, and if it's done too quickly, the groundwater pulls the soil with it. And so it starts to carve into your embankment some. Won't cause catastrophic failure, but it will eat into the embankment. On the south dam where we have the sheet pile wall, that's not going to be a problem.
Okay.
So on the north dam, I'm sure that would be a problem, but I don't know what that rate is, and I don't think, for our purposes, we probably shouldn't worry about that.
I don't think we can exceed it.
If-
I've heard it talked about before, and I think you're right, which I don't think we've got a problem with the ability to draw down that fast on the north lane.
Because the drawdown rate's gonna boil down to a CV rating of those valves and the pressure above. The pipe is just there to convey the water. There'll be some mathematical back pressure, but it's not going to be significant.
Well, the previous engineers didn't use valve diameter, which was 13 inches in some cases, and they used 20 inches as pipe diameter in their calculations, so that's a little bit off. So, all right.
That's all I got.
Okay. Tom Leahy, tree removal contract for Lake Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that we're at the point that we should go ahead and, I'm proposing a targeted scope, Lake Ryan only. It's a small area, it doesn't have a lot of trees. Let's get a contractor, get that contractor trained, let's get something done, tree related. And, then I don't think it'll break the budget. I think we can fit that in. And, let's get some quotes for tree removal.
Can I comment? You have the money, but I can see it's also saying, maybe say we do Lake Asbury, Lake Ryan at the same time.
I'm open, but I think we just need to move forward.
Well, I totally agree, we need to move forward.
So I'm not quite sure what the motion should be, but I think we should begin tree removal.
How many trees is it on? Especially on that route.
On Lake Ryan, that's probably less than 20.
There are about 20, there's about 120 on Lake Asbury, our
I just don't, I'm concerned about erosion.
Well, there's procedures for tree removal, and there's plenty of dams with no trees, and we're in, I don't think violation is the right word, but we're outliers with respect to the fact that we have dams and trees on them, and that's not accepted practice.
I don't disagree with you, Tom. And I've heard you through the last few meetings. Your message has been pretty consistent. We need to do something. We need to do something. I think as far as hazards go, the bigger hazard than the trees right now, because when a tree goes, what it's going to do is it's going to pull all the soil with it out, or B, God forbid, it snaps in half and leaves those roots to rot. That creates a seepage pathway. That can lead to dam failure. But I think the bigger risk right now is on the south dam with the, why am I blanking out? The toe drain, the failed toe drain. That's led to basically, we have a reading where the water pressure is such that in one place that it exceeds the elevation of the dam. Meaning if there weren't a confining clay layer there, that water would be spraying directly out of the dam onto the dam itself.
Matt, do we have a toe drain on Lake Ryan? There's no toe drain on Lake Ryan.
I don't know, no.
Or is it? Only South Lake has toe drain.
Yep.
But I'm listening to you.
Yeah, so the lack of the toe drain there, it's,
They're on the corner of my property.
Yeah.
It's coming, it's raining out underneath the bulkhead.
yes. I think that would be a really good project that we could sink our teeth into and get resolved on a fairly short-term basis with a reasonable budget.
Locations for these?
I don't, but that's something where we can make a motion tonight to seek quotes for that.
You gotta have a scope of what you gotta do too, though. The engineer's gotta tell you what you gotta do, don't they?
Are you talking about the toe drain on South Lake?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number one, okay, that needs to be, and I think Tim told us at the meeting about, it's like
I've already cut the tree down across the
10,000,
property.
and he could do it.
No, he's not going, he told me he will not touch it unless an engineer
Oh, okay.
says this is what's gonna have to happen. So somebody, in both cases, I think we've got to have some kind of engineering
Okay,
involvement, even tree removal, because there's a process to go through. All right, and also the engineer, if we hire one, then they're gonna have spillway considerations and location and all this kind of stuff, so I think we're premature in addressing either one of these, my personal opinion.
So is it within our bounds that our advisory group can write an RFQ for us for tree
No, I'm concerned about that. We do not pay the advisory committee people, nor should we, they volunteer. And so I don't think,
That's an opinion too.
what?
They don't give us, they don't make opinions, that would be an opinion. Probably.
Well, could be, but I don't think we should, get them that involved. Now, what we made, a better approach, in my opinion, would be to take this, if we get moved forward and we hire these guys, then let that be a separate, we're gonna hire an engineer by the hour or something to do those kind of things from them, and that gives you more exposure to their capabilities and how they react and all that, and they've got offices here in Jackson. So, no, I mean, that's my opinion, so.
I'm willing to wait, when that makes sense.
Now, if Tracy Wood sends me this letter that she's been gonna send for 6 months and it says y'all ain't doing nothing, then we better.
Remember, that's on the list. In 2009, when they came, the first thing out of their mouths was, get the trees off the dams. Tracy Wood had another name in those
Well, I guess
But-
this would be a question for Matt, because I know you PE licensed, but, is there already, engineering standards for tree removal on dams that you can reference to a contractor and say, here, give us a quote based on X, Y, Z?
So I work in the operations and maintenance group, and we routinely do that kind of thing. So I don't know if there's a standard. I mean, basically what you do, the standard is you cut off the tree, you ideally remove the entire root system. Typically what we might do is mulch it down to the ground level. But on something like this, you would want to excavate out the root ball, get rid of the roots, lay new fill down, compact that fill, and lay sod on top of it so it doesn't erode your brand new fill. That's the process for it.
So is this something that myself or others can just write an RFQ document and we find out what this might cost us? Is it that simple?
I don't see a reason why we couldn't.
I do. Goes back to the engineer. You need an engineering, and that's what Tim said. Tim said, I could go start digging on the tow drain and if I get into something then he said, so somebody needs to set the procedure in place. And I agree with that.
And how many times do you maybe work on your own house and you're like, oh darn, I shouldn't have done that, I could have done it better, or you have the architect come in and the architect is like, oh, we could have done this better. We've got to go with where these engineers are, because we could cut all those trees down and then they could be like, oh my God, you did the worst thing that you possibly could have done for this design. We don't know where we're at. Yes, cutting the trees is a great idea, it probably has to be done, but we have to rely on engineers to tell us what their steps are and get that beautiful project plan that they have for us and follow that.
Yeah, and all I'm trying to say is that there's already agencies like St. John's and probably others that this is done routinely. It can't be, it's not that big of a mystery.
No, I don't think it is either.
Yeah,
But
so we just gotta follow the procedure.
You gotta have a procedure, somebody's gotta do that. It's gotta be somebody that's willing to take the liability on it too.
And is there a permit needed to remove trees from the dam?
Shouldn't be. That's just basic maintenance. You're restoring the dam to A, that's not a permanent dam. B, you're restoring it back to the way it was. You're not upgrading it in a sense.
But Mike Kelter mentioned a study that was done about trees and trees removal, and and Tracy Wood has mentioned it too, that there was different classifications of trees. There was the short-term, short-life trees, there was long-life trees, and then you got cypress trees down by the Black Creek. So it sounded like that you don't cut some of that stuff down, Especially if we've got considerations now about dam safety and what do they call that? Tunneling. It's not tunneling, but
Seepage.
seepage and then I don't know that we want to be disturbing a bunch of stuff and putting equipment on there to be taking trees down and no telling what. Piping, that's what they called it. Yeah, piping, which is not a pipe going through there, it's water and dirt and or your dam material washing out, so I would say we're close to, let's get the engineer and then establish a plan and approach with engineering support. The other concern though ties into these other lots that got the cypress trees and all that, or cedar trees and all that kind of stuff, you know. That's the thing that everybody's pointed out, but that's not our property. So that is an issue, and they did talk about that in their presentation to us too.
She talked about 2009 also.
Yeah, so, but now I tell you, Mr. Bramlett is building one heck of something down there on Black Creek. He's putting some money in that thing. So I don't, and when we, in this process of doing all this stuff, we have to get them to agree to certain things. I mean, we can't just ignore them. So.
And, I'm willing to wait till we hear from this new candidate engineering firm, but I have reservations.
Okay.
So I'm looking for opinions, you know.
Well, if you want to, you know, the procedure is if you want to make a motion and get us, and somebody seconds it, and we have further discussion, then we vote on it. Then, but the cautions are, we can't just unilaterally do it without, I mean, I would not be doing my job if I said it's okay, y'all just go right ahead and do whatever you want to do. I don't think that's,
No, that's not what I'm asking.
No, I'm just clarifying it. I don't think that's doing my job to do that if, you know, and you say, well, they voted on it, so I don't know. I would tell you what I would do. If you do that, then I'm gonna seek some legal opinions and I'm gonna seek some engineering opinions on my own. If I gotta pay for it out of my own pocket, I'm not just gonna go ahead and arbitrarily do it.
Doesn't it make sense, since we're really close to who we to do what Matt suggests, which is a critical item, and then let them lay out what should happen first, second, and third. What's the important stuff?
Yeah, what's the critical item that you're talking about?
Right, because they.
What critical item are you
She's
talking
saying the
about?
tow drain on the south dam.
Toe drain. But I mean, we're like jumping out and trying to do these little projects, well, maybe that isn't gonna fit in with what they see.
Yeah, and if you go back to the tow drain, I asked Mike Kelter, voluntarily said, I'll sketch up what y'all need to do, and I'll do this for you, and he ain't done it. And I've asked him several times, and he's finally said he ain't gonna do it. So, you know, that's what I was hoping to be able to do when that first came up, and that didn't happen. And Walt works for a big company, so he's not gonna be able to sideline, moonlight doing it, so.
All right, no, I'll stand down and we'll follow the
Okay.
thought process of we'll get our engineering forward and
All right.
move forward.
All right, okay, next time. You still got the,
Well, I know going forward, there's gonna be many presentations. I know it's probably hard for the audience. It's hard for me, just with the acoustics in this room. I can't hear half what's going on sometimes. I think we need to address the acoustics in this room, but we also need an overhead projector and some way of conveying to the audience with PowerPoints or whatever, what we're talking about. So you guys aren't just kind of trying to visualize along with what you think you hear. And this is particularly going to get dicey or dicier when we start talking about huge increases in assessments. We've got to be able to articulately state what and why and when. And so I'm looking for acoustic treatment of this room, and if we have to pay for it, we have to pay for it. And I'm looking for an overhead projector, and up to and including even a PA system of that we don't. So I'm making a motion that I be allowed to quote these three items, and I'll bring the costs back for approval.
second. Any discussion?
Yeah. First of all, we don't own this building. We don't own this building.
I understand that.
And
That's part
the
of the
way
deal.
I work with, I'm on that board, the way I work with it is you simply tell us what what you think you want to do, get the pricing, and give it to me. I'll run it through the board, we'll see if they're in agreement. Because this building is used by lots of people, and that's the path we take. So as long as we're not just jumping in and doing it, that's fine, because we need approval for them to do it.
So I would bring quotations to the.
Or you're welcome to come to a board meeting with me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
There is a projection over here, it's not like it hangs.
Yeah, it's not terribly big.
That doesn't.
Yeah, it's there, but it's not very useful, I will say that.
Okay,
All right,
that's my motion, I guess. Am I allowed to do this?
It's been seconded.
it's been seconded. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, carries. You say no?
No.
Okay, so you got outvoted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1.
Well, right now, all we're talking about is possibilities and cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just trying to identify
Sorry, not trying to be smart. I shouldn't have said it that way. I take it back.
And then we'll see.
Okay, next time. Is that it, Tom?
I had discussions earlier, again, on the cost front. I brought up the erosion control on the north dam, and it came back about, well, we need to be thinking about relocating power lines and such, and I had a discussion with Tim at one time. His feedback was, well, Clay Electric won't work with us, and similar thought process there. So I went ahead, I contacted Clay Electric. I have an email quotation from them that going forward, we want to remove all the poles on the north dam to assist with leveling of the road and new drainage and erosion control, etc. But they will do that for us if we and our contractor install 2 4-inch conduits the length of the dam. And again, this has to be engineered, but they will do that for $30,000. They'll remove all overhead lines and tap back into the 2 affected homeowners. So
Would
that's
they-
an item that we can put in our budget. We know what it costs. And I've also contacted AT&T. They've sent me a form to fill out, but I have not proceeded with AT&T because it's not, this is not terribly critical right now, but I was kind of waiting for, if we get an address, then I can.
We do have an address.
Okay, that's what I was waiting to know what our address was.
So would they be willing to relocate toward the north, on the north downstream side?
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be on
Okay.
the north, yeah.
Okay.
North side. That's all.
All right, where we at then? Carol?
On the address, we do have a new address. It's 276 Branston Road. And we have approval through 2 of the boards to put up a 3 mailbox unit out in front of the building that will address all of our needs. It has a heavy-duty big box at the bottom for large packets and stuff that's lockable, and then it has a place where you can drop in. We've got to find somebody to install it. The total cost of the mailboxes is $785, and they'll be split 3 ways. Wanda and I are getting, I'm sorry I don't have pictures, but I have this if you want to see what this all looks like. We're going to order it tomorrow if the board is approving of it. So send this.
Yeah, and our part would be a third of the 785, or roughly
Yeah,
$300,
plus a little
250.
installation cost.
Okay.
And the association is going to pay for it, and then they'll bill each of us.
Yeah. Why don't we just round it up to $400 in case Winds will come close to it, flip it around everything.
Yeah, okay, do that.
Not
So,
exceed $400 and
so everybody understands it, 276 Branston Road. And the box is gonna be out here in front of our building. Okay.
and there's room at the bottom to catch large packages.
Yes, there's, if you.
I can tell that.
All right, you need a motion on that.
Okay, I make a motion that we proceed with purchasing the 3-unit mailbox at an approximate cost of $400 per group, with 3 groups participating: Lake Lot Owners, Lake Asbury Association, and the Municipal Services Benefit District.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The only thing we need to maintain our appeal box probably at least for 6 months, maybe.
Yes, and we'll go through a mail change,
Very yes.
but we should keep our PO box for
About
6
12
months,
months,
yes.
maybe.
So we'll just,
At least we won't miss the electric bill.
the next thing on my little agenda here is board procedure manual. I handed out sections and I've gotten some back and some not back. What I'm doing right now, which makes more sense to me somehow, those procedures that I handed out were a combination of a lot of different boards. But as we're moving forward, we're creating procedures of our own to do this, to do this, to do this. And since those are approved procedures, it makes more sense to me to keep all of that together and then add some filler to it. So it's not a fast project, it's just slow. But I think it makes more sense because these are proven procedures that we're using. And every meeting, we seem like we get something else to add to it. So I'm bringing that up now because Matt offered his pieces back and I put him off till this meeting. And I'm ready for them anytime you want to give them to me. Larry?
What do I do then if I disagree with Rule 1.102 officers?
I think you just mark it through and put your comments, because I don't either agree with it or disagree with it. It's just part of the packet that we have. So if we get all the thoughts together.
This had to be added due because you didn't have 1 year, unless otherwise designated by the board, that you served no more than 2 consecutive 1-year terms as a board chair.
That is, came from another set of procedures that was handed to us by Wayne.
Wayne Flowers gave me
Yes.
several years ago 3 copies of
Three different
procedures for 3 of his special districts. They're very similar. But again, like Carol said, make your comments, and the board will discuss it.
Because there's nothing set in stone. Those are just early drafts put together. But what it means to us is yet a different thing. So I just say, put your comments there. When we get them all together, we can figure out what we like, what we don't like, and make ours accordingly. Because this is ours.
That's fine, that's what I'm doing, if you're gonna do that for the chairperson, why don't you do it for the vice chair and the treasurer?
Oh, well, and that's a very good point. So why don't you write it down there? That was the idea.
And just give them back to you or email it?
No, give them back to me, email them to me, however you want to do it.
There we go.
And just so you know, if you're going to just put it in our regular mail that we get.
Yeah.
In the small biz mail, yeah. That's where I go to for everything.
I wanted to discuss that with you, that's why I haven't sent it back to you.
Yeah. So anybody that has yours ready, just scan it in and send it back to me by email, and we'll have them all together, and I'll start coordinating what we're doing as approved items every month. Is that okay with everybody? Because I don't see any motions here or anything, this discussion. It's okay?
Yeah.
We already talked about algae, so I'm not going to talk anymore about algae, except to say that it's just not a matter of looking at pretty water. This stuff is nasty. And if it can be managed at the stage it is now, compared to waiting another, it's gone from the back of our channel to the mouth of our channel in a month. So I'm willing to wait on Mark a little bit here, but I still feel like we need to deal with this algae. You don't want it covering the lake.
Is that really our board's, in our area of responsibility?
I
That's,
don't know.
that's what bothers me about, not working together with the other board, because I've always wondered, when you had the, hydraulic problem, how they didn't have the money to buy the grass cart, so this board did. So, where do you draw the line, when do you start working with each other so that you don't have any problems?
Leaving the ducks are dying.
Not a question of not working with them, but we've got to be respectful of our priorities in our budget, that's all. If the folks are.
Well, they must have had to put enough money,
Yeah.
my point, that they must have had the money 12, 14 years ago, whenever they put the grass carp in, and then people, I was told, people were not satisfied with how fast that they were getting rid of them, so they bought them again, they doubled up on it. That's why the lake is, that's why we have algae now, because there's no filtering system. Yeah, the runoff is terrible, but if you don't have eelgrass and hydrilla in there to clean it up, you're gonna continue to have more algae.
Well, somebody cut off a whole raft of eelgrass and it floated into the neck channel. So I need to write an article on eelgrass. People don't realize how important it is. But when they did the subdivision across the street from us, all of that stuff started coming, it started coming in, and that's where it came from.
I've seen it on the world.
So, anyway, all I'm asking you is don't say no to treating the algae, because it's becoming a huge mess.
No, I don't think we would say no. Maybe what we need to do is we need someone that can put a plan together for this, and we need to cost it. We need to know what it costs. And then we can have an articulate discussion about it.
That's being done now,
Okay,
Bob,
okay.
Walt Guy.
Is this
Walt is working on that now. He sent me an email saying that he was trying to find companies to get the actual cost of it. I've got a brochure and a magazine if,
You guys coming Friday? He's got guys meeting on Friday.
and I've got a magazine that if you really want to know what the cost of stuff is, I've already checked into it. I'm not gonna bring it up and go over here. Ponds, lakes, and supplies. And I can tell you how to get rid of everything that's in the water and what it's gonna cost you. If you want to know, here it is.
Is it really expensive?
Yes, ma'am.
And so the more of it we got, the worse it's gonna get, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The more
As long as that sun's shining, that algae is gonna multiply and grow. Yes,
But what
ma'am.
I'm saying is we got control, it's definitely gonna grow, right? So I'm willing to wait till Mark gets through with his meeting, but I want something done with this mess.
Well, before Lambsta would be willing to commit to that, we're gonna have to determine, is that in our scope of responsibility or not? I'm not gonna, we're not gonna,
I mean, we have to look at the charter and we also have to look at who else is involved. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not just us.
And I can recognize the precedent going back when we bought the carpet, but I think, did our valves work at that point in time, or did we have our priorities mixed up back then too? It's
I have no idea.
an academic question. I'm more than willing to help fix the problem.
well, but Carolyn.
Anytime you took a lake and tried to turn it into a swimming pool, your priorities were really messed up.
No, but your comment is right. If you look at the pictures that she's talking about, and you look at the Hazelwood hole where it's got dirt, you don't have to worry about the water quality, you can worry about the dirt quality. Then we've
Damn
got
right.
some real issues, no doubt.
We're not the only ones with a problem.
No, but to say we're not gonna do, that nobody's gonna do anything about it is not right.
That's
To
a true
say
statement,
that it's under our responsibility versus lake lot owners or somebody else, I don't know whose responsibility it is.
What we have to be careful of though, as a board, is playing whack-a-mole, as we have for years and years and years, since the 80s, we played whack-a-mole. Oh, this needs to be done, oh, this needs to be done, oh, this needs to be done. We need a comprehensive plan to attack everything that needs to be done. You know, we can't keep playing whack-a-mole. If that costs $30,000 and, you know, a spring costs $30,000, where's the coffers that we're supposed to be building for our dam? Where's that money that Paul talks about? That before they lend us money, we have to have that pot. We've got to save the dams because that's saving lives before anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the algae is gross, disgusting. I get it completely. It's in my yard too. But we've got to correlate focus, and I think we're losing it. We're playing whack-a-mole. And that's not a good game for us.
Okay,
You've got a lack of current.
okay, where are we at then? Carol, are you done then?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, unfinished business. All prior board motions have been completed. The one that hasn't is that 4 by 15 foot thing, I guess it's part of it. How about any new business? And then, okay, nothing there. All right, and questions, comments from the audience. Lee Goodnight, you had another question. Was, will you consider putting funds back in the budget to stock the lakes with shad next spring? These are very few, there are very few left in the South Lake, and the bass are skinny. If the answer is no, would you consider matching funds raised from private donations up to some amount? The board took that out about, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. There was something in there, I don't think we ever did it. That was $6,000 or so, the best I remember.
Yeah, we took out the budget last year.
You took it out of the budget last year, you had like $6,000?
$6,000.
Yeah.
Again, that's open for discussion.
Yeah, that's,
Well, what's the problem with the shed?
That's what we were just talking about with the county, it's all part of the quality of the lakes and the health of the fishery and that kind of stuff. And right now, nobody has ownership, so somebody with deep pockets finds a house on the lake and they like eat catfish, they can put 20,000 catfish in the lake. Nobody says they can't hold it.
yeah.
You take responsibility for maintaining the fishery, shad or carp or whatever is required to keep it up. Then you have a protocol, same way with algae. I imagine if nothing happens, they get frustrated enough for the owners, the people on that finger and hire somebody who can spray it.
Well, and that's the point. You don't want people doing that because it doesn't benefit all of us. It just benefits me and the rest of the people on my finger. But what if he decided to go out and dump oil in it because he heard that would take care of it? I mean, we can't afford it.
I don't want to force it tonight. I talked to Martin, you know, his feeling is that it should be funded by the board, not the fishermen. It's my idea of matching funds, because we need to do it at least in the South Lake. He's agreed to talk to the guy that's done it in the past, he doesn't know if he's still doing it. I think he said the minimum order was $2,000 for length, or whatever it was. So Mark was agreed to get the information and get back to me. I'm just proposing that you put the line item back in the budget, $6 number of dollars, so you have a partner, somebody reads the budget, realizes that this board is responsible for stocking lakes.
Are you a fisherman? Instead of putting shad in, why don't you put crappie in? Bass feed on crappie.
Because I don't want to get out of my pocket if I get you all to.
And you think the shad in your lake will not spawn?
I don't think so. I don't know too late here.
So,
Last year in 11 days, I caught 246 largemouth bass in 11 days out of your lake, not mine. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, the bass in that lake are in great shape. I just caught a 6 and 7 pounder last week. It's plenty of food. They're in good shape.
just a question, are we talking about gizzard shad? Are we talking about gizzard shad?
Redfin.
Okay,
No,
okay.
they don't have good. I was told years ago before the hydro, there was actually golden shiners in these two lakes. they put them in there, and but they have a place to hide. They got nothing now but lily pads, and
Yeah.
that's why they get eat up so bad. You ought to know that. There's no place for them to hide. But as far as the quality of bass in the South Lake, it's 10 times better than the North Lake.
Okay.
But if we put money back in for it, shad is one thing, but I would put, the property and other species in the bass feed on, instead of just shad.
I just think there should be a line item in the budget as a marker.
I'll talk to Mark. I have Janet talk to Mark about seeing if they can put that in the Lola budget. It's only $2,000.
Lola's got no money.
I need to change the locks.
And if the precedent's there, if it's true means money, we should be able to do that. We need a coordinated.
But it used to be.
Somebody that knows what they're watching, right?
It is a Lola responsibility, according to Congress.
Mark's a saltwater fisherman anyway, he'll fish once in a while in Boat Lake, but he's a saltwater fisherman.
Okay, all right, so I don't know that we've got an answer for you, Lee, but, we've got a budget process going.
We'll include it in the conversation.
Yeah, and, I guess we've gotta watch it, we've gotta be prudent in what we do, monetarily. But we can't be stingy, for lack of a better word.
Can I ask a question?
What?
Can I ask a question?
Are we done with this conversation?
Well, it's about this conversation.
No, okay.
I have some friends that have lived on lakes, private lakes and ponds before, and they have gotten their waterways replenished from Fish and Wildlife, where they met the tanker and got however many, whatever kind of fish it was, and
There are, even what Larry or somebody said in one of our meetings recently was that if we weren't a quote private lake, we could get all this algae and all this stuff taken care of by the state too. All right, so it depends on who owns what, that sort of thing. So, did you know that? That if this was the statement a few months ago, within the last 2 months, was if this was not on a private lake, that we could get the state to take care of the algae.
But it is a private lake.
Yeah.
Same thing for the water quality, same thing for, yeah.
Becoming not a private lake is not on my agenda to get done.
Okay, all right, that's are there any other topics? No, I think I've covered all the things you need to certainly. All right, motion to adjourn.
Hey! I gotta talk about my question, but I'll be right back.
it's Dan.
Oh, my God, I thought somebody had got it done.
Thank you, sir.
I thought I brought his question up.
Apparently.
Look at Dan, look for Dan's thing, and see what I didn't skip him on
Can I
purpose.
ask you a question while
No, just a few.
Carol? Did you see the product that was specified for duckweed?
$69.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I saw it, what it said and how
Yeah,
much.
it's like, for 40,000 square feet, it would be almost $579.
Is this your question here?
So they didn't go to.
That's what I'm talking about. I can't get a whole reason for it. Okay, I thought we've been talking about that for
You
last.
didn't talk about it.
Okay, bring it up then. Here's what you say. You say, Dan Weisenberg, something must be done about water quality.
That's right, and let me give you my presentation on that. The board has a charter that says you take care of the lakes and the dams. That's all it says. That is all inclusive. One of the problems with the lakes right now is the water quality. The water quality, I ran so fast I'm out of breath. But the water quality has suffered immensely. It suffers because the county doesn't do their job. The county promised us when I was on board that they would do their job. That can's been kicked down the road for over 20 years. When I first moved here, I could go out to the end of my dock. I could see the bottom of the water. I could see fishes. It was really wonderful. There was no aquarium grass or eelgrass, whatever you want to call it. There was no algae. This year, the algae, or something, I'm not even sure it's algae, has started growing during the wintertime in a shaded area. It's not a function of sunlight. It's not a function of air temperature. It's just something's coming into the lake. Back when I was on board, we paid for a regular service from the lake doctor. He came out, he sprayed things, he did things, and the water quality was excellent. I'm saying this board needs to get back to doing the lake doctor somewhere along the lines. It got divided up between you and Lola, and now you just pass the buck back and forth. And I'm tired of it. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.